The review of the minutes,
Mr. Chairman, also move.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Dog complaint hearing. What do we call it first here?
It's in the bottom.
Dog, Steve, can I just come up, please?
You know, Steve. Sure.
You need these two?
I only needed one, you know, one extra.
Yeah.
I need just one.
One.
One extra, just one there.
Actually, that's the fifth one. I don't want, actually, yeah, we do have an extra one.
So we'll just hold on to the fifth one.
We should have an extra one. There, perfect. You give me that one. Thank you.
These the same?
Yeah, that's the packet you just gave me.
Okay, there's one more that I handed out to you.
Yeah, I got this one, and this one, right?
Should be three.
Yep, December 7th, December 3rd, December 3rd.
Okay.
This one's got a staple on it.
Yep.
Steve, in regards to the complaint from Dorothy Dunlop, what's happened with that?
I spoke with the Deons on different occasions. They are well aware of the fact that the dog is out on different occasions. You know, a little one is kind of rambunctious, likes to open up doors. I've been down there. I mean, they've made almost every attempt you possibly can, other than being able to put in some sort of fence, because now the ground is starting to get frozen over. I did suggest to them an electronic fence with the collar on the dog. That has worked extremely well in different cases I've had, which I'm more than willing to do. However, you gotta wait for the ground to cooperate a little bit. Other than that, right at the present time, they now have the dog on a chain. Chain is brand new. I've been down there. The dog, they even have the dog chained inside the house, because when the little fella gets rambunctious and the door goes open, the dog is now chained inside the house. So at the present time, I'm hoping we have a solution. I did explain to him that, you know, where this has kind of been an ongoing thing, that there probably wouldn't be a second or third time, and if there is, that the dog would probably be asked to be removed from town. The problem must end now.
Okay. I've spoken with Mr. Dion, he said the dog has gotten loose just once in the recent weeks.
About 5 days ago, which the dog was a brand new chain and went down there. Yes, the dog was loose. I witnessed the dog loose. It was a brand new chain, and the dog managed to break the brand new chain. So, I mean, it wasn't, you know, the dog had about 25 feet of chain he was dragging around. The dog was in front of their house. It wasn't down the street, because there is some distance between the Dion's and the Dunlop home. The dog was in front of Dion's house, dragging the chain around.
So as far as you're concerned, the Dions have made every reasonable effort to contain the dog?
Yes. They even went to the extent that they brought it to the shelter. However, they were unaware that they only accepted cash. That they did not accept personal checks. So in the whole melee of kind of making the final step and the kids all getting excited, they haven't returned to that area, and they're trying to make every attempt to not have any more issues, because like I said, I explained to them that there wouldn't be any more issues, that there would probably be a ruling that the next time the dog is going anyways, and you will have no choice at that time.
Any other board members have any questions for Steve?
Steve, you said you're gonna put electric fence on the, what you said?
Yes, I don't know if you're familiar with electric fence, and unfortunately, right at the moment, the ground is not conducive to be able to put the wire in. He's has no problem doing that, and, he asked me, how they worked. I explained to him that, they work very well. It takes a little, period of time, to have the dog understand, but I know my parents have one, and that dog doesn't go within 10 feet of that fence.
So you figure when springtime, that's be resolved?
Yes, as soon as the ground is unthawed, he said he would, take care of that immediately, which I told him, as soon as, I felt the ground was unthawed, I'll be down knocking on his door to see to it that he's tending the business. And he had no problem. He's been, as cooperative as can be, and that's where we're at.
Great, thanks. What do the Dion's have the dog on now? Do they have it on a type of leash or a runner or anything like that? They just leave it in the house? Or?
Basically, they've had it on a, regular dog chain.
Yeah.
And they've had it out in the back is where they normally keep it. And I say 5 days ago, I got a call and was down there and the dog was loose, but he's dragging 25 feet of chain.
Right, and something like that, you can't, right. You can't.
It's a big dog. I mean,
Right.
he's got some weight behind him, and he's not a vicious dog. He's a very friendly dog. He's an older dog, and he's been able to snap the chain. And so I told him we need to take more action than just the chain. If that means putting up, not necessarily an electronic fence. I mean, if it requires, a wooden fence or, woven wire fence or whatever, but I think the easiest route, and I think it's very effective, is electronic fence. Not an eyesore in people's yards. And
Can I just myself up 1 second? Thank you, Steve. If nobody else has any questions, like that, Mrs. Dunlop, come up, please. Miss, I'm sorry. It's Mrs. here in my paperwork. I'm just gonna have Mike swear you in.
The town solicitor's not here, I'll take this role tonight, so you can raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes.
Thank you. Just state your name and address for the secretary.
Dorothy Dunlop, 103 Brook Street in Clinton.
One question, are you satisfied with the Dion's attempts at restraining their dog?
No, I'm not. The dog is still loose. He is out almost every day. And this has been ongoing since the spring. The fence could have been put up in the spring. The ground wasn't frozen then. If something was done about it then. This is the dog officer, I assume.
Correct.
Has he seen the pictures of my yard? Has he seen what this dog has done? I mean, my big problem is, I have been complaining and calling on this since the springtime. It's almost the next spring, it's almost a year later. And the dog is still out. The dog, like he said, the dog is a nice dog. But, I mean, he doesn't belong in my yard. And another problem is that this dog runs around and he's got no tags on. He has no license, no rabies tag, which doesn't mean he doesn't have a license or his shots. But it's hard to identify if somebody else, I happen to know who the dog is because he spends his days in my yard. But if somebody else would find him, you don't know whose dog it is. You know what I mean? He has no tag. I have never seen that dog with a tag on him. Never.
The
Steve,
dog does have a tag on its collar.
have you seen the pictures?
No, I have not seen the pictures.
How recent have you seen the dog on your property?
I haven't seen him on my property. I have seen him around my neighborhood. So I'm sure I have seen his droppings on my property. I know what those look like too. I have pictures of those too.
Well, I can't get that technical, I don't believe. How recent have you seen the dog in the neighborhood or around your property?
Within the last week.
One time in the last week?
Oh, no, I see him often.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? Steve, you said you saw a collar on the dog.
Yes.
Did they
There is
obtain a license?
They have the dog had worn out the license, but there is a rabies tag on the collar. And they are current, however, they're not current from 2002, but they have till April 1st to do so. But
So-
there is
Can you just
a,
back, what did you say the dog did?
the
Ran-
dog is current on rabies in Clinton license. It doesn't have a 2002 license yet because they have until April 1st to do so. However, at the present, there is a rabies tag on that dog's collar.
And how long is that? Because she's saying that
And
there
that's-
never was.
It's an older tag, it's
an older
not a recent tag. Because matter of fact, I also explained to them that the rabies becomes expired February 27th. And that I would suggest that they, take the dog now and get a shot, and then they'd be covered for 3 years.
I've never seen a tag on this dog. Every picture I have of this dog, I mean, in that book you saw, that's not all the pictures I have of that. I have pictures going back from the spring. I mean, I wouldn't be able to carry them all in here. Every picture I have of that dog, he does not have a tag on. He has never had a tag on. I had to identify him.
You sure you have the correct dog?
Excuse
You
me?
sure you have the correct dog?
Absolutely. I brought the dog home. I used to bring him home. I used to walk the dog home every day with a big piece of rope and say to Mrs. Dion, keep the rope, tie the dog up. I'd buy more rope every day. I have a letter. Did you read the letters? The hairdresser that lives up the street from me thought that was my dog because every day, every morning, she would see me walk by her house with this dog on a big, long piece of rope.
Mr. Chairman, again, the thing that disturbs me is from what I'm reading, what you're telling us, Steve, is that I know that you said you made many attempts to get in touch with the dog officer, but the dog officer is saying that there were no messages from you left on his machine. Is that factual? Because obviously he
No.
couldn't respond to you if you didn't leave a message for you. I'm just trying to, in my
Can I
mind.
give you for an example? About a week and a
Well,
half
no,
ago.
I just need for you
Okay,
to
go ahead.
answer my question.
Yes,
and
there were
many-
messages left.
There were messages left
Yes.
with your name and number for
And I
Mr.
spoke to
Mudge.
his wife also. May I add something
Sure. Please.
that doesn't have anything to do with this, but it does sort of. You can judge that. About a week and a half ago, I called the dog officer about 8:30 at night, got his wife. Left a message that I was walking my dog, was chased by 2 dogs, one bit me. Had to pick my dog up, run home with her. She's 28 pounds, heavy dog. He did respond, talked to him, made it a point to say, I got bit by this dog. Now he called me at 10 o'clock at night, said he thinks he knows what dog it was, so on. So to make a long story short, I don't know I never found out if he picked up the dog, if he got a hold of the owners, if the dog was quarantined. I have an updated tetanus shot, so I wasn't worried about that. It wasn't like a big, huge chunk taken out of my skin. But I was bit. But why go to the emergency room if nobody is gonna follow up on this?
I think we're kind of getting away from the hearing.
Yeah, I don't.
Right, I know, but I'm just saying, yes, I did leave messages, many messages.
Can I respond to that?
I wish you would.
Yes, please.
She is correct. You know, she did call me about a week ago. It was actually almost about exactly a week, which I did respond. I called her back about 10:15 at night. She did not tell me that she was actually bit. That a black dog and a golden lab type dog.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, this isn't what the
Right,
hearing is
we're not-
about.
we're here
getting
to-
away
to
from
settle
the hearing with the
Well,
Dion's
between
dog.
the-
Then to get back to the
Yeah.
several calls, I would ask the board, you have all my monthly records or whatever, I cannot find any calls. Mrs. Dunlap, when she called me about a week ago, her name came right up on my machine, you know, Mrs. Dunlap, you know, telephone number, the whole 9 yards, and anything that comes into my house gets recorded. So this started way back in the spring, I've gone all the way back to summertime, trying to find any calls that I may have missed, you know, and why I didn't respond to Mrs. Dunlap, because I usually respond. You know, it may not be immediately, you know, at the time they call or whatever, but they usually get taken care of, and I cannot find her anywhere in my logs, which date all the way back to, you know,
Well, I would-
however far back you want to go.
I wouldn't expect you to respond to an unidentified call. I mean, if the person doesn't state who they are or why they're calling, how can you possibly
That's right,
respond?
how can you do it? I mean,
Right.
Right,
basically.
but what I'm saying is, if the name is given, a number's given, or whatever, everything goes in my log.
Right.
You know, there's nothing.
I've read
you
your
know, so-
logs, and they're all very to the
Right, so-
point.
Right.
So if there's any issue that, you know, just recently I deducted anything from my notes or whatever, then go way back to April, May, June, whatever month you want, you know, and please, if you can find them, then I'll certainly admit that, you know, it was my oversight or overlook and I did not respond, and I'd certainly apologize for that.
As far as this matter goes this evening between the Dion's and Ms. Dunlop, I'd like to go with the dog officer's recommendation. If you think they're making due process here, making every reasonable effort to restrain that dog, that's as far as I want to go tonight. And if they want to put an electric fence up, or actually we're going to ask them to put an electric fence up to keep that dog on their property, I think that's the way I'd like to end this hearing tonight, and not getting into personalities or other issues at all.
Mr. Chairman, can I just make one statement?
Sure.
Just for the record, the town of Clinton has a 24-hour leash law.
Correct.
So these animals should not be running around the streets. They should not be entering other people's yards. So I would go along with your recommendation, Mr. Chairman, but I would also say that if another complaint does come in, and it does have something to do with this same animal, I intend to take action, because I believe that...
As a board, I believe we would have to do that.
Could you
So-
state that again, please? I didn't get the last.
If this comes up again between the Dion's and Ms. Dunlop, then we're going to have to pursue it further.
Oh, absolutely. I've already told them, you know, that basically there will be no other time. That, you know, everybody's had enough of this problem. There will be no other time. And he fully understands that. And, you know, I think we're at a point here that there doesn't even need to be another hearing on it. That this board can make a decision tonight that there will not be another time.
Well, if there is another time, it's going to be...
The dog is to be removed.
Ms. Dunlop, are you okay with that? The dog gets loose one more time, that we pick him up? Is that?
May I just ask one more question?
Yes.
He's saying, I never left a message, I didn't call him about this last spring. But when I didn't get any response, I came up here and signed a formal complaint in the selectman's office. That was in August.
Yes,
Of the paperwork.
yes.
I never got any calls then either.
She's absolutely right. The paperwork was signed in August, the form was filled out in August, and I never received it from the office till the end of October. First part of the last hearing we had is when it was given to me. So, I mean, if I'm not made aware immediately, if Mrs. Dunlop, you know, filed this in August, why this wasn't immediately turned over to me, I couldn't take action. It was handed to me from the office on one of my past hearings.
Okay, I can't speak on
I'm not gonna-
on the
I
clerical
don't intend,
mishandling or
Mr.
whatever.
Chairman, to
That's a
start
separate
pointing
issue.
fingers at anyone. I think the issue at hand is, there's a complaint going on.
I think
Obviously,
Mr.
Mr.
Dion-
Dion, but I think you have to dismiss Mrs. Dunlap, Ms. Dunlap
Mr.
first.
Dunlap, anything else you have for the board?
Chairman,
Oh,
you didn't
sorry.
answer my question, though.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Was that
sorry.
is that action satisfactory to you? The dog is loose again, that we take action? Because if he doesn't get loose till spring, I think it's a fair solution to have the fence. Your issue is that the dog doesn't belong
I
to your
don't
yard,
hate to see
correct?
anything happen to the dog. He's a nice dog.
Right, so
you
your
know?
concern is you don't want a dog in your yard, period.
Exactly. Just keep him out of my yard.
Okay, fair
Okay?
enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dion? Jaleesa, can you get Mike? Just to continue. Does Mr. Dion have to be sworn in? Mike?
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Just state your name and address for the secretary.
Rich Dion, 144 Lawrence Street.
Go ahead, Rich.
I'd like to make a couple of comments regarding this. The first comment is, according to my wife, who's home during the day, the dog's been brought home once on a rope. That was back in August. She told me that some woman had brought the dog home on a rope. And my comment to her was, well, great, did you thank her? For returning the dog. And since then, that's the only time that I know that the dog has been actually returned. Like I said the last time, I'm not here to deny that the dog's been loose or gotten loose. We do what I feel is our best effort to restrain the dog. He breaks the chains. He's been restrained in the house. Mr. Mudgett's witnessed that. He's popped in on us a few times just for discussion and seeing the dog actually chained up in the house. He breaks his chains. He had recommended a different style chain to us, so a chain that he cannot break.
He hasn't broken that one, has he?
We haven't. That was just Monday.
Oh, okay.
We haven't. But I put bungee or shock cords on the chain to try to relieve some of the strain when the dog does pull. My first notification that there was any trouble with the dog whatsoever was the first meeting we had here, I believe, in November. That was the first indication from anybody, whether it be a town official or a private citizen, that there was a problem with the dog. Certainly, I'm trying my best, and I know my wife is. We do have an issue with the dog. Does like to run, does like to get out. He's got 24 hours a day to think on how he's getting out, and he knows the routes. We're trying everything in our power to restrain him. I made an agreement with Mr. Mudgett. I think I recommended it to him as much as he recommended it to me. One more incident, and I agreed to remove the dog. Matter of fact, the dog was at the shelter Monday. We made that decision. My wife and 4 children went up one day to a shelter, and this dog was one day off from being destroyed. That kind of broke their heart, and the 4 kids, brought the dog home, and that's what they talk about. We saved the dog's life. It was one day off from being destroyed. We brought the dog. We made a tough decision as a parent to bring the dog to the shelter. I mean, my children are young. They don't understand. But we did bring the dog. We made the decision to bring the dog to the shelter. Fortunately or unfortunately, they didn't accept anything but a MasterCard. So we had to bring the dog home. Based on the children's reaction that day, being Monday, they were pretty shook up over the whole incident. They're the partial or majority of the cause of the dog getting out. I'm not quite sure that they understood the seriousness of this matter prior to Monday, when the dog actually left, because we were at the shelter. They now do understand, I hope, You know, it's hard to teach a 2-year-old this, but I hope they understand the seriousness of this. And like I said, I've made an agreement with the dog officer, and I can make it with the town. If the dog does get off and like Mr. Mudgett said, I don't think that should be based on hearsay or someone's opinion that they saw the dog loose. Because I'm seriously believe we have a identity problem. If there's people that think the dog's loose every day, that's not the case. I know that for a fact. The days I'm home, the dog does not get loose. I can't speak for the time I'm at work, but, you know, when my wife tells me, you know, we almost have a running calendar, you know, 16 days without the dog getting loose. The dog spent various weeks at my mother's house. You know, so it's not an everyday thing. And I'd like to see the pictures, if I could, of the dog actually doing damage, and I'd like to identify the dog, if I could.
I don't have my pictures with me.
I think she-
I think though, Rich, we're at a point of resolution right now. I don't think we need to revisit.
Well, I mean, I read the newspaper as everybody else in the town does, and it sounds like, you know, I'm very careless with the dog, and, you know, just kind of, you know, you need to go out, and that's certainly not the case here. And like I said, I take responsibility for the dog getting out, but, you know, I think it's a little bit blown out of proportion or gone overboard here.
But if you're willing to go along with the dog officer's recommendations, I think that's how we're going to end the
Certainly.
hearing tonight.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add a comment. And you mentioned about taking the dog to the shelter. We're going to think that the dog's not going to get loose. That's the positive approach we're taking. But let's say if it does. The shelters, like the Sterling shelter, doesn't kill animals. They find a home for them. So
Right.
Not necessarily, so.
Well, I'm going to tell you, that's where we got the dog, and he was one day away from the oven.
But Sterling shelter.
But we found a different shelter other than Sterling. One that we're happy with.
Any questions, any other questions?
No.
No.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we'll close the hearing. I guess you have to ask if there's any comments.
Yeah, this being a public meeting, is there any comments from anybody from the public in regards to this dog hearing? There being none, I'll close the hearing and accept the...
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would move that the Deons abide by what was agreed upon tonight with the recommendation of the dog officer, and that the resolution being that they would make every effort to restrain the animal, and that should a complaint come before us again, that action would be taken by the board through the dog officer.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, Stephen.
What's that?
So keep up the good work.
Administrators report? I'm sorry. Over here? Oh, that's under administrative. Yeah.
The first item is request for late-night closings for Saturdays in the month of February 2002. To date, we have letters from Clinton Turner's, Gale House Grill, Old Timer Restaurant, Rincon Criollo, and Scooby Doo's.
So move.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that would be any others that come before with the police chief's recommendations and approvals. Thank you.
The next is just a request from the South Commons Playground Park Committee, asking permission to conduct a raffle in the town of Clinton. They're looking to raise money for the construction of a playground on South Commons in Berlin.
I make a motion that we grant the request.
Second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is a request from Clinton Savings Bank to use the Town Hall Auditorium on Saturday, February 16th, to host a Valentine's Day concert put on by Thayer Symphony Orchestra, similar to their concert last year that they sponsored.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move on that.
Is there a second?
Second, but I have a comment.
And I was just going to
Did
discuss.
we decide yet? on
Well,
the
that's what I
fees
was
and
gonna-
stuff like that?
That's what I was going to discuss,
Yeah,
under discussion, Steve. I spoke to Chairman Elworthy before the meeting tonight, and he was the only one who couldn't make it here this evening. But we intend to, as a committee, meet next week
Okay.
prior to us coming into the board and hopefully have it in place. So there are a few items on for, permission this evening that Mr. Chairman expressed that he is in favor of. And the only thing that we need to do, and we're really actually, the committee just hasn't got together and we've been delinquent on it, but it certainly shouldn't hold up some of the requests that have been made. We're this far away from it, but hopefully we can put it all together because the committee actually consists of Mr. Ward, Mr. Elworthy, Nibbin O'Toole, and the building inspector, and myself, so.
Is that,
County is no fee for that.
And someone from the theater group.
Is county is no fee right now? Is that what the-
No, there is, but we've been saying for a long time that we were going to make some adjustments by use and requests, so
so that
We
fee
hope to have
structure's going to be
some-
ready in 2 weeks?
we certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Maybe even as soon as next week.
Yeah, the committee is meeting next Wednesday, so at that point, they'll hopefully have a policy for the board's next meeting. There is currently a fee structure in place right now. We are also doing an inspectional, we instituted with the board's guidance, instituted an inspectional program, so when people before and after use of the hall, we go and check everything for damage. But this will just be a formalized written policy, which will just kind of incorporate that, and then people can sign for it when they rent the hall, so they know their obligations. So it's just kind of putting them right in. We have a draft form, we've gotten some input from other towns, we have a draft form, so the committee just needs to ratify that, make some modifications, and bring it back to the board.
There's a physical checklist?
Yes, Jolie said put together a checklist of different things to look for, different things to check for, and we go before and after to make sure if there's any damage, the people that are renting it would be responsible then to fix that or pay for it.
Such as the curtain,
Right.
and as well.
Any other discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. The next is a request from Girl Scout Troop 854 to use the Town Hall Auditorium on Friday, February 22nd to host their annual International Girl Scout Thinking Day.
Mr. Chairman, also move.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
The next is a request from Commit Coalition to use the Town Hall for a quit smoking support program on Tuesday evenings from beginning February 26th. The Board of Health has sponsored a couple of these programs in the past, and they seem to have been pretty popular. They've used the Town Hall, and it's been under the guise of the Board of Health, but the way this letter reads, I think the group is, now starting just to kind of branch out on their own and trying to continue some of the programs. But I think we've had 2 other sessions in here before.
Sounds like a great idea.
The only, Mr. Chairman, I know that that's 6 different evenings, and
Right.
my only question here is that we've had some concern about someone having to stay here to open up the building. I would prefer that we work the dates around when the building is being used, there's committees going on, rather than say it be Michael have to stay here just to open up for a half hour, so
That's a reasonable request.
that would be my suggestion, that
Change the time.
I'm very much in favor of it, but I think we should have them work around nights when someone's going to be here and there's going to be meetings going on, rather than, say yourself, Michael, having to be here to keep the place open. I don't think that's fair.
Okay.
So you want to make that in the...
I would make that in the form of a motion that I agree with the request and support it, but I think that they
have
need to work
around
with
our
us
schedule.
with dates that are, that they can coordinate with your office, Michael.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is a request from the Imago School to use the town hall on Saturday, March 9th, to host a fundraising dinner dance that they will have in the auditorium. And they've used it several times in the past as well.
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
What type of dance is this? Is this regular type of?
Yeah,
It's not
I
gonna be
think it's a
anything like the last
family,
one?
yeah, it's a family
Okay.
event. yeah.
All right. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next is from the Lancaster Coffee House, requesting use of the Town Hall Fallon Auditorium on Saturday, May 4th, to host a national singer-songwriter, Greg Brown. They're running this event to raise funds for the Town of Lancaster 350th Anniversary Celebration Fund.
It seems like an awfully long day, huh? 1 PM to 11:30 PM?
Yeah, I think they'll be in early to do setup and get ready and stuff like that. So I think just the program is in the evening, but they'll be in early doing decorating and setup.
I'll so move.
Second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's nice to see the mother town reaching her 350th year.
Yeah.
Super.
The next is a request from the minor league to use the town hall on Thursday, May 9th, between 5 and 9 p.m. to take team photos. There'll be students in and out, there'll be parents and coaches to supervise, but there'll be a group of kids come in, have their pictures taken, they'll leave, another group will come in, so they won't all be here at one time.
Also move, Mr. Chairman. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
Okay.
All
Second that.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next is a request from Lindsay School of Dance to use the Town Hall Auditorium on Sunday, June 23rd, to host a dance recital.
Also move, Mr. Chairman. She's used this before, correct?
Right, yeah.
What kind of dance is that? You know? Just curious.
I'm not sure.
Just
Are
little
they gonna
ones.
put on a recital? Is it for that?
Isn't it just a dance recital, all ages?
Children.
Exactly,
Yeah.
I think just the children.
I'll second.
Dance recital, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next is a request that we received from some private individuals to use the town hall for Sunday, June 30th, to host a 15th birthday party.
Mr. Chairman, I
For their
also
dog.
move on this.
I'll second.
Just as discussion, am I reading that right, 400 people? Is that right?
I don't have it in front of me.
Is that the one?
200?
What is it? This says 400, I'm just looking at the...
Bring them to the
Huh?
next town
Is that what
meeting.
it says?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Geez, can they bring some of their friends to town meeting? I'm just reading this, I'm saying 15-year-old.
That's a big,
Can I get that a
400 people?
condition?
That's
well,
a big,
family and friends.
that's a big thing for the
Jeez.
trans community. That's a big,
Is there a motion?
Made,
Yeah, I made the motion.
Yeah, I'll second it.
He
seconded.
did, I seconded it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. The next is a request from Kelly Moran to use the Town Hall Auditorium on Saturday, September 28th, to host a wedding reception.
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And finally, there's a request.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know that Kelly is here, and I'm just, are you also at some point in time going to request a license, a liquor license? or-
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, liquor and something else I need to know.
Entertainment, probably.
well, you'd have to have a certificate of insurance and stuff, but
Yeah.
But I know that's
Catering
not,
license comes
that's
from the
not
Board of
under
Health.
request, so those are a few other things that you have to obtain, so I just,
Clinton Savings Bank?
Yes. And the final item is a request from Clinton Savings Bank to put a banner over High Street beginning the week of February 4th to advertise their Valentine's Day concert, which was just approved by the board. They would also like to put a banner outside the town hall as well, since this is the venue where it's going to be held. So they were having their 150th celebration last year, and they did do a function here similar to this, and they were looking to do similar promotion techniques.
Michael, this has a banner inside the town hall. Is it inside or out? Is it?
I think one of each. What they did is they put one in on the landing of the balcony as you come in the lobby and look up right on the landing. They had one across the railing there, and then they had one out front, I think right down in front of the building as well.
That's at their expense, Mike? They don't?
Yeah, they put that, paid for and put it up themselves.
Okay.
It's just-
Awesome, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I don't know if you want to go into all the new
All the
business.
new business, sure.
If we could. As the board knows, there's openings on the Conservation Commission. We have received one letter from a gentleman in Cedar Street offering to serve. If the board's pleasure to act on that, or we do have another, in addition, there are two openings, so we only have one name so far.
I'll make a motion to appoint Dennis Parker to the Conservation Commission.
Second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. And just to let people know that we do have another opening for Conservation Commission. If there's anyone interested, we'd love to hear from you and get involved in that committee. Thank you. The next is just a list, a review for the board. If the board had any questions, Class 2 used car license renewals for 2002. Jaleesa put together a list. All the people on the list are interested in renewing. The building inspector has reviewed the list and has no opposition to the renewals from the people on the list. We have a couple of requests for license holders. One is for a change of name, although that isn't officially here yet. Depot Square Auto, they've asked him to change their name, but they're going to be sending up a letter, so we don't know what that new name is going to be. So that will be forthcoming, but they would like their license renewed and then maybe come before the board for a name change. Also, Empire Equipment asked that they, which the board had received a previous request, that license be brought back to the original number. The building inspector has no opposition to that. The recommendation last year to reduce it was based on the owner's conversations that he was going to retire, but he's looking to stay very involved in the business, so he would like to keep the number that he had before. And the only new request, again, which the board has been aware of, is Sullivan Auto is looking to up their license. The board had given them 6 to begin with and to review after a period of time, and they're asking to increase that to 15.
Michael, fill me in. Sullivan Auto, is that the one on High Street?
Right.
I don't know how the board feels, but I mean, I would up the Empire Equipment up to 15. Frank Potus, doing business as Empire Equipment. I believe it's on Parker Street.
I thought that we had spoken with Sullivan Auto and told him that he would need to be in business for a while.
Right.
And then possibly come before the board.
I think they're here, actually, in the audience. So.
I'd like to come up and... Just state your name and address for the secretary, please.
Robert A. Casson, 55 Garfield Street, Cambridge, Mass. Hi. Well, so the reason why, when I rented the place in the beginning from the gentleman, I was told that it had a 15-car license. So then I looked on the wall and I saw a sign that had a 6-car license. So I came up to change it. As of all the other years, the place had a 15-car license. I never ran a car lot in my life with a 6-car license. I wouldn't, to me, it's like a part-time car lot with a 6-car license. I like to give it a try. I have a place in Somerville. I like to close it, come up here and operate a car lot. That's where I'm standing. That's what I'd like to do. But 6 cars is very...
I'm sure it was reduced for some reason in the past. I don't recall exactly what that was. But when you came up, you had come before the board before.
Yeah.
And I thought you were...
oh, sorry.
I thought you were going to be okay with the 6-car license and then possibly it being reviewed in the future.
well, you only gave me a 6 car, so that's the best I could do, if that's what you gave me.
Okay, so
And then
you-
you said 4 months, come up, and then you would boost it up.
Have you been in business?
I've sold a few, this month I haven't, I did well for like 3 months, but this month I haven't been up here much, to be honest with you. Well, it's winter too, it's quiet, well, quiet in Somerville too, it's quiet everywhere right now.
Okay, I've been, you know, I frequent High Street quite a bit, and I don't recall seeing 6 cars on the lot.
I do it at nighttime, I do it the Auto Hunter, I come up, I meet the people, I switch them, that's the only way you can do it from there, because you have 6 cars, I do it right in the Auto Hunter. They meet me, I hook them up at nighttime or Saturday morning.
So you're not displaying 6 cars at a time then?
No, I'll put them in the Auto Hunter, get the phone call, because I don't want to sit there in the office. I don't think you would sit there, I don't think anybody would sit there to sell 6 cars in an office.
So you haven't been putting any cars on display, correct?
Yes, I have. I have a few there now.
Okay.
Well, I'm not in favor of increasing at this time. I don't recall seeing, giving you a 4-month time frame either. I mean, I
Yes,
just
you
don't
said it
recall
was
that.
set.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
I concur with you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not in favor of increasing the number.
I mean, if you're doing business with a 6-car license now, why couldn't you continue doing business that way?
I wouldn't sit there all day long. I would never close, I would never keep it as a full-time car lot, no, because it could never be a full-time. I don't think anybody would sit in an office all day long from 9 to 5 and try to sell 6 cars. I've been in business for 20 years. I never seen one in my history of my life, except this one.
Well, I'm not in favor of, like I said, increasing at this time, and
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we
May I
maintain.
ask, before we move, may I ask what, in the past, why we don't want to have so many cars? Is it like liability issue? I guess I don't understand. I mean,
Well, I think a lot of it is where they're situated, the traffic. Just, you know, this license has been somewhat of a stagnant license for a long period of time. Even though the license had been issued, they really weren't doing business.
yeah, we asked the building
And
inspector
so-
to go in and look at sales records, which I believe is his right to do, and he came back with recommendations on reducing some of these figures. One was the Empire equipment, I think through a mishap there, or miscommunication, it was reduced to 1 by Mr. POTUS stating that, the son or somebody stating that they were going to retire, and then that's not going to happen. So that's why I would be in favor of keeping that at 15, because we never had a problem at 15 at that location. But this location has been dropped through the building inspector's recommendation due to stagnant.
I guess, to me, in all fairness, either we go across the board or we don't go across the board. I mean, I think it's unfair to do it for one, not for another. So that's something, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If we do it for one, we
Yeah.
do it for the other.
But as you see, Steve, that not everyone has the same amounts.
Correct.
You know, it depends on the establishment. So that's why, I mean, some may have 1, some may have 3, some may have 6.
Right.
Wachusett Auto, if I remember correctly, had a 30-car license.
Just like,
Somebody's asking for
just
15
like
again, though.
Depot Square as
15,
an
right?
example. At one time,
Request right here.
we decreased this by a substantial number
That's this
because,
gentleman, yeah.
Right, it's here.
Yeah.
But over here, they want to go to 15, and they have 6 currently.
right,
Right,
So why-
I'd like to see it at 6
right.
for a
This-
year.
This
See
one,
what
as they
happens.
said, Steve, was, I guess, because there was an error. I wasn't there at that particular meeting, but I guess there was an error that someone said that the license was, they weren't going to be in the business anymore. And the building
believe the building
inspector,
inspector spoke, right.
yeah. And
Whoever he
that's how
spoke to.
that's how
I
that.
think
In all
he spoke to
fairness,
son and
the
father.
Empire, he's been in business for years here in the town, and
And there
you
was
know, I look
never
at it
a
as an issue of
problem.
fairness with him. You know.
I believe a motion's been made
To maintain Sullivan Auto at 6 vehicles.
and to grant all the others with Empire going to 15.
Well, I just wanted to move on that.
Yeah, why don't we just do
Individually.
one by one?
One at a time.
Are we going to do this individually?
No, just the ones
Okay.
that are,
Motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll go along with the, I'll second it, just under discussion that we keep it to 6 until he's been here for a year, and then he can come in front of them. I have no problem with that, and look at it at that time. But I think that was the original, when we voted on that the first time, with Tom was here, he made the suggestion to keep it to 6, and then the board talked about it. After a year, we would look at it then. That's what I remember anyways.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
I make a motion that we grant a license for the original amount of 15 vehicles for Frank Potus doing business as Empire Equipment.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No. Based on the fact I said before, I don't think it's fair to do it for one and not for another.
I just, under discussion, Mr. Chairman, in going back to 15, and I know that I've discussed this before, I noticed some of that lot has been cleaned out, and it's, if I'm looking at the correct lot, it's coming up Brook
Correct.
It's on the corner.
Corner.
Broken Park.
Right.
To go back to 15, are we going to allow 15 more vehicles of what is there already?
See, that's what I'm-
That's my question on this.
Well, that would be up to the
The building inspector.
to police. You can't have more than your stated license figure on the lot. If it gets to that point, we'll just have
But,
to...
and again, that's always been a bone of contention for that lot, is they're not vehicles that they're selling, they're like abandoned, not abandoned,
It's always
what's
been
the
a
word I
nice
want
way.
to use?
It's always been a
Right.
nice way to me, and it's like, it finally got cleaned up, and now we're gonna go back to 15. And that's one reason. The other reason is, like I said, I don't think it's fair to do it for one, not for another, and that's where I stand, so. I'm not in favor of doing it for one, not the other.
Well, I mean, the building inspector, I would imagine, would keep us abreast of the situation. If obviously they're in violation, we can always have them come in front of the
And
board.
we could always ask for more frequent inspections of the Class 2 licenses.
Well, I have to concur with Steve. I'm not going to go to the 15 now. I would really like to talk to the building inspector and get some kind of an assurance of what that lot is going to look like in 5 months or 6 months. I know they've been in business for a long time, Mark, and you're right, but that always has been a very visible eyesore. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, I know it's a Class 2 license, but Class 2 license, as far as I was concerned, was autos and things that were sellable equipment. And I don't even know, do they sell those things, or?
I would imagine too, that would have to qualify as a Class 2 license. That's what I always thought. You know, it's a Class 2 license, they have to be selling it.
Well,
Okay, so-
I would, well,
So maybe we need to have Mr. Potus in to discuss what his needs are.
well, I would like to talk to the building inspector first, quite frankly, because it's the building inspector who's saying that he has no problem with it, but I'd like to have some clarification as to, you know, going back to 15, what that lot is going to look like and what we're talking about for vehicles that are going to wind up on that lot.
Why don't we just go and vote on it? I mean, it's been motioned and then it's been seconded, so why don't we just vote on it and take it from there?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed?
Aye,
Aye.
so no action is taken.
No action. Okay.
And my suggestion would be, or I would move, Mr. Chairman, that we have the building inspector in to go over this request for this
Empire.
reestablishment of this license from the 1 back to the 15.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
To move on the remaining licenses, do we have any opposition to any of those?
I'll so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, could I go back 1 second to the Conservation Commission appointment? Mike, do you mind telling the public what the Conservation Commission is all about? And maybe we'll get some people to kind of volunteer for that.
Sure. The Conservation Commission, they enforce and oversee all the wetlands laws and regulations in Massachusetts, in Clinton. All the state laws and regulations and local ordinances as well, dealing with wetlands, conservation lands, any project that's going to be done in the town of Clinton, any development or construction project. If there are any wetlands involved, they must go through the Conservation Commission. in order to ensure that the environment and the wetlands are being protected. So it's a very active board. When projects are busy, there's a lot for them to do. So they usually meet once a month, and when needed, they'll meet as more often. But it's important. It's an important board for the town to protect environmental issues.
So we need one more, there's one more position? Is there alternates also that are?
No, we just do the regular members.
Okay.
And annual, they're 3-year terms.
So we want to thank Mr. Parker for coming forward and being appointed to the board. Commission, I'm sorry.
Thank you. On the next issue, and I don't know if the board, without a full board tonight, would want to discuss this, maybe have an input from the chairman, but as the board is aware, there are currently some liquor licenses available in the town, and there's been weekly requests from different establishments asking the status and interest in obtaining those. So I know, I think it's my understanding that it's up to the licensing commission's discretion to issue those licenses. If they're not issued, they still stay with the town of Clinton. We don't lose them. Say a year from now, 5 years from now, they can still be issued again. It's just currently right now, for the licensing commission just to set a policy on how to deal with these licenses. So.
Can we turn them in? Do we have to keep them? Can we turn them in?
The state statute allows communities to have certain number of licenses per population. So they're really kind of on paper. So it wouldn't be that we wouldn't lose them, but we wouldn't really necessarily turn them in either. The law would allow any licensing commission to go to that quota in the future. When you go over, they have a problem. But if you're under, it's up to the town if they're under. But if you want to hit that ceiling, you're able to do that as well.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important that the chairperson have an opportunity as well, but I'll just go on record that I'm not in favor of just going out and adding more licenses to the town of Clinton. I think at this particular time, we certainly have more than our share, and certainly there's a substantial amount of people who are looking, and I would not want us to get into some kind of a, every time we turn around, someone else is in it, coming in and wants it and wants to know why they can't have it. And so I would not be in favor at this point in time of considering giving either of those licenses out at this particular time. And that's only, I just want to go on record, and that would be my...
I guess I have a difference of opinion. I'd like to see us, we have them. I know there's been numerous businesses that have come in the past before the board. I think they're looking to enhance their business, whether it be, I know there's a couple of businesses on High Street alone that were looking to, get a beer and wine license for whatever reason. I would be in favor of it. I think anytime if the business is looking to, enhance itself or try to, do well in these tough times, I don't see anything wrong with it. And I think it creates a business-friendly atmosphere with us working with businesses in the town.
Absolutely. Now, since we don't have a full board, Mike, we would table this motion until...
Yeah, board, you could just leave it up for, just leave it up, just don't bypass it. And
So don't act on it?
Exactly, we can bring it up for...
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment also. I have a different take on this a little bit. I'm not in favor of actually give more licenses out in the town of Clinton. I think we have enough of the drinking establishment as we have already. But since we can't turn them in, okay, in all fairness, we have to do something with them. So I still have to think about that, how we're going to address that. But I'm not really in favor of having more drinking establishments, because I just think it's a social issue that we need to address. And we don't want Mark to have to add more police officers so we can control that.
Just under discussion, Steve, you don't have to do anything with them. You can just, they're basically just sitting there, quote unquote, on paper, that it's to
Right.
additional quota.
Right, I understand that, but if boards change as time goes on, that, then, as a private citizen myself, I'm not opposed to that, so I'd rather be able to get rid of them And that way no one can act on that.
There's actually only one here that's
I
a,
understand that also.
Well, I mean, ultimately, if there's a complement of 5, there possibly could be a motion, and that action could be taken.
Correct.
That's why I think you need to have the entire complement.
Correct.
going.
Right. And it's obvious that we need to,
Yep.
to look
Table
at each case if and when it comes before the board.
there's only one here that's a beer and wine pouring license. The other 2 would be package store licenses.
Right. So we're not going to act on this evening. Next on the,
That's just informational for the board. The treasurer will be doing a sale of bond anticipation notes. Next week is the sale, so we'll need a vote of the selectmen to issue, to approve that sale and sign the paperwork. So if the board tentatively, we look to maybe next Wednesday, if the board's available, maybe we can continue with some budget meetings as well, if the board's available to do that.
so we need to act on this next week.
No, yeah, next week,
Next
yeah, so there's no action needed tonight, it's just, once they get all the paperwork in, the board needs to vote to authorize that borrowing and then sign off on all the actually, we need original signatures on the notes as well, so.
Thank you.
Chairman, if I may, if I can add a piece of new business, if it's okay, if it's a pleasure of the board. Get a lot of comments that a lot of people don't know where the town hall is, and they'd like to have a sign put up. I'd like to know, like to vote on that today. Perhaps get a small sign or something, so people know. We all know.
Physically on the building?
On the building or on the premises, just so people know.
Sounds good. Is there a motion?
Talking like the plaque that says Town Hall.
Right, we
Town
can put
Hall.
right at the top of the thing.
Or maybe individual letters
Like
or
the library has, something like that.
Yeah, or
I just think we need it. I think a lot of people ask, and a lot of people ask, what, we know what it is, because we live in town, but
So you're
grew up with it.
so you're making the motion?
I'd like to make a motion to get a sign for the
Sounds
town
like
hall.
you could.
I'll second it.
Just under discussion, are you comfortable with having the Town Hall committee do it, there is a committee and that...
I have no problem as long as they do it quickly.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, because I'm
Good
saying
idea.
there's money, please.
They do it quick.
There's money available.
Yeah.
Any public comment this evening? There being none, we're gonna,
Yeah, if the board wanted to take a short break, and then we can set up to have a budget meeting with
With the
the
police.
police chief.
Chairman, I'll move for a 5-minute break.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.